Welcome to the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast, your place for truckside chats and insights into the retriever game. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned handler, this podcast is another resource for tips, tricks, and insights from both the amateurs and professional trainers' perspectives. Each week, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of retriever training, sharing stories of success, overcoming challenges, and forging stronger bonds with our dogs. This is the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. I'm Chris Rud, your host, fellow retriever enthusiast, and student of the game. Let's dive in. Welcome to the first episode of Season 2 of the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. And it's been a bit. I know a lot of you have been waiting anxiously for this. I can't believe how many people started reaching out to me like immediately as soon as duck season started to close. It was like just direct message. Hey, when the podcast coming back on? So appreciate everybody reaching out and curious about that. I actually did want to launch the podcast like a week and a half ago, but I came down with the flu, the worst flu I've had in a very, very long time. And I was down for the count. So if all of a sudden I start breaking out and coughing, I'm going to try to be quick on the mute mic. And when that happens, Mr. Clark Kennington is going to have to like do some like fancy radio stuff and keep the show going as I'm like dying. But yeah, so for the first episode of Season 2 of the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast, we have returning guest, multi-returning guest. We'll be returning all the time, Mr. Clark Kennington. Welcome, sir.
Glad to be here, bud. Looking forward to this.
You're starting to look like a dog trainer, man.
Yeah, you know what they always say, never trust a dog trainer without a tan. I think I classify as a dog trainer again now.
Dude, when you came up on the screen, I was like, whoa. I'm sure the light is helping a little bit, but you got the Oompa Loompa face going on.
Oh, man, it's... Yeah, with a white forehead. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we've been hard at it down here in Texas.
When'd you get down in Texas?
I got here the 16th or 17th. Lyle and them got here the last week of January.
Okay.
I spent some time at home with the wife and the newborn before I came down here, and blessed to have them down here right now. They've been down here a couple of weeks. It's not going to be fun watching them leave Monday, but she's got to get back to work and back to the real world, so it's not going to be as much fun.
Yeah. I like that video you sent me today with her sitting there, just looking all happy in the shade. So
yeah, they've been out here supporting me.
Yeah. Have they seen any snakes? Does Nicole like snakes?
No, she does not like snakes, and she hasn't seen it yet. Thanks for bringing that up, Chris.
Oh, well, when I was down there, man, I was so scared the whole time. And she said that's the first thing I thought, because that one of the videos you sent me was a place that we trained together, and there was like a big snake over like there that I like had to go. Oh no, that was an alligator.
There's an alligator over there. Yeah.
But
I don't swim them across that part.
Yeah, it's just scary in general, just the South. So. All the Southern listeners are probably laughing right now, but this Yankee is like, please, I don't want. You guys do get to get in the water a little bit earlier, so that is a very nice thing. I have to admit, I've been in the water a grand total of 3 days so far this year. So
well, I've spent 4 days this week in the water, so it's been nice.
Yeah. There is something rejuvenating to the winter dog trainer, like the first day, like your dog does like a complex watermark and you're like, oh, this is why I do this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then there's another sad part about it. When you first get back in the water after being up north in the winter, and you're like, oh my God, they forgot everything. And then you're working your tail off to get them doing it right again. And then you have to go back to the balancing aspect of it, because you got to go this direction before you can go back this direction. Yeah. But it's nice to watch dogs swim again. To me, when you get to do watermarks that dogs get to swim and actually make decisions, to me, it's kind of relaxing, because I'll get music playing and, I get to relax a little bit and just watch them make decisions and only get involved when I need to. So it's kind of therapeutic to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I Well, before we get into some of the topics we wanted to discuss, I thought it, because it's the first episode of the year. One thing that our family does every year, and we do this more than every year, but like every New Year's, it's kind of like a New Year's thing where we sit around and we talk about our highs and our lows of the year. So, like, what was something that was like a really, really positive that just kind of like was something that we'll remember for the rest of the, maybe our rest of our lives, or just, something that was really cool. And then something that happened that, wasn't the greatest, and maybe discuss a little bit how we're going to learn from it.
Um, I was really blessed last year. I can't really come up with many lows to say. Um, I'm always the type of person that if I don't pass all the dogs at something I'm running at, like I always kind of kick myself, like what could I have done a little differently? Um, I guess the Fall Grant, I went 9 out of 11, and I guess the two that I lost, I kind of kicked myself in the butt, like what could I have done a little differently here or there to got those other two through. Other than that, I mean, I was pretty blessed. Maybe I'd say the Master National was a little bit of a low. I didn't have as good of a Master National as I have in the past. Just really tough test and tough conditions we ran in. Um, and I had some bad breaks. I mean, I lost one of my best dogs, well, two of my best dogs in the fourth series to breaking on the honor. One of them being Daisy, which is the best dog I've ever stood beside. She had one of those days. She left, and she wasn't sorry about it. And then my other young dog named Sully, he is a freak, but he had 4 no birds on the flyer in a row on the honor. And the fifth time, he just couldn't handle it anymore. And, I can't blame him. So we just kind of had some bad luck, and it happens. Probably in high would be Toombs getting second in the crown. That was a big deal. That's a stroker son. So that meant a lot to me. Also for Kelly, that was a big deal too. And now Kelly just won an SRS amateur with him. And we discussed him at length last year. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that was a big high. I feel like he's starting to follow in his father's footsteps. Stroker got second 3 times before he ever won the thing. I hope that's not the case with Toombs, but that's
It
pretty
still wouldn't be
consistent.
bad. It still wouldn't
Yeah,
be bad.
yeah, still
And
wouldn't be
I just
bad.
got to interrupt you. So, don't tell Nicole what you answered for your high for the year.
That was 2024. He was born in 2025.
Oh, okay. That good
Yeah.
catch. Okay, because I was like, dude,
Uh-huh.
you're missing that.
113, 2025. We're talking about 2024.
Okay. Well,
So
I
if
just
you
meant
go in
to. I guess I meant it
2025,
between the seasons of the Hunt Test Hobo podcast, but because
you
I
got
was
to
like,
be
well, you
more
better say this.
specific. You got to be
All
more
right. Yeah.
specific, Chris.
You got me on that. You got me on that. I'll give you that.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, you're low. Did you have a low?
You know, if I had to say one, I'd say the Master National. I didn't do as well as I'd like to, but
Yeah.
it still was a good national comparatively, and I was pretty blessed in 2024. I cannot complain, and 2025 started really well. Um, I've run 3 weekends in a row of HRC finish test, done very well. Um, Robbie was born the 13th of January, so blessed to have a newborn in our life. He's been out supervising me with his little sunglasses and floppy hat on. I've been training, so that's been a lot of fun too. So
Yeah.
really no complaints. I can't really name any lows.
All right. Well, so I wasn't planning to do it by the year, so
Well, you said last year,
I know,
so
and I meant season. I should have said last season. I definitely screwed that up. I definitely screwed that up. But so for me, I think my high and my low. Well, I had 2 highs. I mean, between the break of the podcast, I did buy a new house,
mhm.
and it is. I wouldn't say that was like a woohoo! I bought a new house high, but I'm like falling in love with the house more and more as I'm here, just because I was stuck on a quarter-acre lot in a historic district before with no backyard
No room
and
to do anything.
5 dogs.
I saw it.
And I was shoehorning everything, and we actually had a house that we were closing on, and the night or the day before, I don't know, did I tell you this? I think I'm anyway.
Yeah.
I did a water test. I paid for a water test because they wouldn't get me a clean water test on something for this well. And it came back the day before we were closing with like just bacteria off the charts, and they wouldn't fix it. So we ended up walking away from that house, which I was like pretty devastated because it was right across from a field I hunt and everything. Like it was in prime, like Chris Rud goose hunting territory. Like it was like a
Gotta have your
perfect
priorities
location.
straight.
Oh man. And it was 28 minutes from Sharon's where I dog train at most of the time. So I was like, this is the perfect location, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and it was 3/4 acre. So it was way more than I had. And that like fell through. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this didn't happen. But that night, a new house came on the market, and it is like the perfect house for us because not only like I really wanted to live in unincorporated away from everything so that I just didn't have to deal with anybody with the dogs. But Yorkville, the town I live in, has no dog restrictions, which was a key factor, obviously, because I kind of collect them, and and I needed enough land that I wanted to be able to do pattern blinds. Like that was kind
Mm-hmm.
of my deal. Is like, can I do pattern blinds? Because I train a lot of young dogs, and getting to pattern blinds is a big deal. If I can do pattern blinds, I can pretty much do most of the basic stuff that I like to be able to do and be more efficient at. And this house is like, it's such a strange situation. It's an old farmhouse. The house is great, but it sat on a lot that was just a regular 1/4 acre lot, but they had this like 2.5 acre lot that went through the backyard, and it was for future development, but it hasn't been touched, forever. And the guy that bought this house bought it with my neighbor, and then they split it into 2 parcels. So it's just perfectly flat, and uh, it's right against my house, and it's just another. So I have just under 2 acres now, and I can do a ton of different dog training stuff. So that's been cool. My wife has kind of turned into a little bit of like a homesteader. We can't have livestock, so we have the dog part down. But like, I'm
Yeah, I saw
sure
the
I'm
part of the dog part you were building.
yeah. So I'm putting in a dog run right now, which is like the most exciting thing. So I don't have to stand out there every single time I let dogs out, make sure they're not going into my neighbor's property and stuff. But anyway, my wife has like, she's been doing the whole sourdough, like every like stereotypical like video. It's like you start with sourdough, and like we're totally going down that path. Like I actually had to call Julie, the call before you dig people, because uh we're putting in like a pretty good size like suburban garden here. We're putting in a 15 by 35 vegetable garden, and then I'm putting in 15 by 30 thing of sweet corn because I love sweet corn and I've always wanted to do it. And my favorite
Goodness
part is
gracious.
I'm building a water tower. So and
Farmer hobo.
I'm gonna send you a video. I'm gonna send you a picture of where I'm doing this, because
What are
the
you going to put
two
on the water tower?
I'm gonna put one of those like 270-gallon water tanks, but then I'm gonna build a
Well, what are you going to put on it? I mean, you've got to have some kind of like
oh
sign or something on the.
I talked to some of my designers at work, and I think I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna put like Rudville across it, because I live in Yorkville, and when you come down the street, like
You'll
the
see
way
it.
that it's like it'll be right there, like so. I think it would be hilarious. I wonder if I'd actually get in trouble, but like I don't know, maybe I'll like do it out of like my neighbor's tearing down their fence, and he's like, "Hey, you think we could burn it in like your lot or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." But I'm thinking I'll just take all the fence panels and use those to build it. They look like some like old farm water tower thing, and that way the water doesn't turn into like because the sun can't hit the water, because with a clear tank like that. So,
You're really
uh,
thinking about this. You're
dude,
going in depth.
well, so I got my ATV and everything. I was like, how am I going to get? It's like 300 yards from the 3 rain barrels my wife made me. Not made me, but she convinced me that it was a good idea, and I believe her. So we got these 3 rain barrels, but we got
I
300
can tell you,
yards to get.
believer.
Yeah, 300 yards to get to this water tower I gotta get to. So I'm gonna buy, probably a 6-gallon per minute transfer pump, and put like a 50-gallon tank on the back of my ATV trailer, and we'll just use that to fill that thing up like once a month. We'll
So
just
we're gonna
spend
have a farming podcast coming up soon.
yeah. I am gonna dig in a line just in case, but that way I can have drip irrigation to both of my little plots, gravity fed through my water tower.
That's
It's gonna be
wild,
good, bro. And I'm gonna have a big party, and I'm gonna have a lot of corn. Like that's my goal. My uncle is like a full-on prepper up in the UP.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't have. He has pigs. He's got like salt barrels buried in the ground. Like this guy is like full-on. He doesn't buy anything, like at all. And he was giving me all like, "Here's how you do everything," because he's been doing it for years. So I'm pretty. My wife is pretty excited, and I'm excited to do it with her. So anyway, my point
On the
was.
roads.
Julie wasn't showing up to do to do my property. They kept doing my house lot, but not my flag lot. So like I had to call and complain, and they came within an hour and 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it. It was like I kind of felt powerful, you know. I complained, and they're like, "Oh, we'll be out there by 11 o'clock." I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay," and it's all good. And I'm also doing. We're gonna put some apple trees in this year, and I'm building like a little berry trestle, or not trestle. I don't even know what it's called.
So
See, this
it
is where I
sounds
start to
like
like
you
fall
went
down.
from a 1/4 acre lot with a little corner to dog train, and now you're making uh, an acre and a half worth of house and farm, and gonna have a 1/2 acre to train in.
No. That I was like, if you see the way I've set this up, I'm encroaching only 15 feet on one side of the lot, and I've made good friends with the neighbors, so I can stand. I got 2.5 acres now because I can stand in their property and run the dogs. But I'm putting in a gravel pad. So guess what I'm doing? All the dirt that I have to do to dig out the gravel pad for the new dog trailer, I'm putting 2 mounds in. so, so the puppies can learn
Lord,
how to run off the mounds. Well, where else am I going to
Lord.
put the dirt?
That's true. That's true. The only person with a mound on 2 acres.
Hey, they got to
Guess
learn,
you can,
right?
yeah, you can teach them how to run a blind to the top of a mound. That's people don't realize how much of a feat that is with dogs that don't know how to go to the top of a mound or
Yep.
go over a mound to get a mark. It can be a daunting task. So
Yeah. Well, okay.
that's
I didn't
awesome,
even
bro.
get to my highs and my lows, but I think probably the high was buying the house. Probably close second is buying that cool dog trailer, which I'm pretty proud that I haven't posted any pictures online about it
Yeah, you're
because,
no longer the Hunt Test Hobo. You got a fancy trailer.
well, people, you'll have to see it in person because I'm like trying not to be one of those guys that like post the trailer pics because I'm going to kind of rag on some pros, and you don't do this. But some pros that I see out there that all that they do is like they like selfies with their trailer. Like, look, we're dog training today. And it's kind of a joke in my dog training group about how people we
I
like
don't
we like
I don't have time to stop and take a picture with a dog trailer.
but pros do that. I'm like, man, you guys think you're so cool. You got a nice trailer.
Well, they're proud
Congratulations.
of it. Them things are expensive.
That's true.
They're not cheap.
I
Some
should
houses are cheaper than them things.
Oh no, dude! I'm impressed with a lot of the way, like how well these trailers are built. Like, and I'm even more impressed with how well they're built now. Like seeing this one. So for folks that are obviously, because I won't post any pictures of it. The
You better not.
now
You
I
better
can't,
not
right, for
now.
sure. I might have to at some point just because people are gonna like annoyingly message me about it because like, well, I want to see it. But anyway, you said it's like a CNT. What was it? A Canadian? I don't know. It's made in
I
Canada.
can't remember the. It was made in Canada. They don't make them anymore. They're extremely well built. I think that's the same kind that Mark Medford has, but they don't make them anymore.
Man, it is incredible. I mean, the thing's got to be 20 something years old, right? Like because they haven't made them in that long.
It's been over 15 years, 10, 15 years since they made them, I think.
Yeah. So there was a chassis mount that they put on a skid steer trailer, and it's a 6-hole, and it has so much storage and closets, and it has everything. It honestly, like when I saw it online, I was like, this is too good to be true for $7,000. I was like, there's no way that this is actually holding up. But it worked. What it was is it was donated to a shelter, and they just didn't know what they had, and they had posted it a few different times. It started at like 12, and then went down to 10, and then it was at 7, and just nobody had called on it for like 2 or 3 weeks. I gave them what they were asking for it, but like I couldn't believe it that it was still available. It has so much storage. It has like, and it's wired. It's got an exhaust fan. It's got a pressure or a pressure washer water, and it's got gravity fed, and it has a diesel tank in it for a diesel heater. And I was like, dude, I need to rig that sucker up because it gets cold up here. But I haven't tested the pressurized water yet because obviously it's been we had 3 inches of snow flipping yesterday. Like, what is that crap?
Well, it was in the 30s here the last 2 mornings. So,
oh my gosh, that was like, so I'm sick and I'm just starting to get better. I'm like, oh, I can go out and do something with the dogs. And I didn't know what the weather was because I was so sick. And I walked outside and it was snowed like that. And it was like the most depressing thing that's happened.
That was your low, is what you're saying. That was your low.
I was like, oh my gosh. No. My low was my transmission going out on the way to a basketball tournament in Indiana for my daughter. That was the low. Like, oh, I just bought the $7,000 trailer, and 2 days later, my transmission completely decides to implode. And it's not like my truck was old and had a lot of miles on it. It was ridiculous. So I'm probably going to start buying a Ford or something because I haven't had good luck. So, but right now I got another 100,000 miles and 3-year warranty on this transmission, and this truck is going to go bye-bye.
I hear you.
Well, people are probably tired of listening to stories about my life. Let's talk about some dog stuff. So
let's do it.
We're gonna talk about kind of 2 different topics today. I want to start with kind of the crown and talk a little bit about tombs. And because if you are a listener to the podcast, we have talked about many different times about how when dogs can get unbalanced and not and just struggle, and as dog trainers, we constantly can feel like we're slipping or our dogs are slipping. So I think it'd be awesome to talk about kind of just that journey that you went through with Toombs last year and the previous year to get to kind of where you guys ended up.
Yeah, we talked about him last year on one of the first few podcasts you did, and I talked about things I was changing within training him. The year before, man, he just didn't have a good year. I mean, things just never could line up. Now, I will say, Toombs, like if something can go wrong, for whatever reason, it goes wrong with Toombs, especially at SRS stuff. I mean, I've run SRS for a long time. I know the people that have run it for a long time. He's the only dog I've ever seen that the head of an ATB went through the legs of a silhouette decoy and he couldn't get it. That happened in Nebraska, and it kind of wigged him out, and he didn't make the finals because of it. Just one of those things, and that would just happen time and time again with him. But he wasn't doing well, and mentally he was struggling, and I had to take a step back and try to figure out, like, what can I do to make him better? Rather than continuing doing what you're doing, which is obviously not working because we're not getting any better, things are kind of slipping. Sometimes the best thing is take a step back and say, well, maybe I need to try a different approach. And my thought process was that I was having too high of an expectation with him and trying to hold him at too much of a high standard, to where I need to let him have some more freedom, and make training fun again, rather than it being just this regiment to where I'm steadily on his butt for every little thing he does wrong. Try to be more of a teammate rather than the dictator coach. And that's what we did. We made it fun again. If we made a mistake, not a big deal. We'd just rethrow, or we'd recall and cast, and then we'd rethrow rather than going into giving pressure for mistakes he made. And it turned around quickly. He won the SRS at Habitat Flats last year. He got second in Minnesota. Daisy won the one in Minnesota. That gave her a title. Kelly ran him in Ohio. Very first SRS he's ever run. Was in first place by a long shot going into the final. And they just kind of had a miscommunication thing on the blind in the final series. Ended up getting second. Still pretty good considering he never stepped to the line in an SRS before until that day. I mean, that weekend.
As an amateur.
And those of you who haven't stepped to the line in that game, it's a lot. It is a lot, not just on the dog, but on you mentally as a handler. So, dude, I was super proud of him when he did that. But we changed everything we were doing, like the way I handled his mistakes. We're no longer really giving a lot of pressure, just more of attrition type things, not giving him the option to do things wrong. And you could just see him get better and better and better. We went to the
Can
Crown.
you back up? You said something I think is really important. You kind of you said you didn't you didn't put him in situations he could make mistakes or something along that line.
Well, no, we still put him in situations where he can make mistakes, but we treated the way we handled those mistakes differently. To where before, maybe he made a mistake and I would give pressure for it and a recall and resend or cast. Now it would just be a recall with zero physical pressure involved. And a lot more of a cheerleader when he made the correct decision after getting a recall.
Did you do a little dance for him?
I whatever it takes, bud. I mean, if I got to do the truffle
what what
shuffle,
what makes
I'll
Toombs
do it.
tick?
Man, Toombs thrives off praise. I mean, that's just the way he is. And as we went along this journey, I started to figure out the little nuances that made Toombs be what Toombs is. Toombs runs so much better when he's just relaxed, calm. Like there's some dogs that you need to be a little jacked up, and there's some dogs you need to be a little down. Toombs is right there in the middle. Like if he's relaxed and free, he's going to run really well. So our thing was that I learned is when I put him in the holding blind, if I roll him over, make him roll over, and I scratch his belly for a minute, you can just see his whole body relax. And when he does that, it's game on. Just a little trick, just something you do different than sometimes, and it makes all the difference in the world. Kelly does that with what he's running him now is put him in the holding blind, try to get him just kind of forget about everything going around him. Just relax. And that makes a big difference with him. As far as the Crown goes, he kind of started out behind the 8 ball in the first series. He didn't miss getting the long bird and doing that whole thing clean by much. He had a little mishap on the go bird, which I'm not sure what happened there. Killed the right bird, got all the way out to the long bird for whatever reason, couldn't come up with it. I thought I got in there a handle. I didn't. It could have gone either way. He barely made the top 12. And then the top 18. And then they did that double poison bird blind, and he destroyed that. Like you get into a poison bird blind running thing with Toombs, he's just like his daddy was. He's tough to get around in that game. We went to the top 12. Kind of had a hybrid series, and you have to be aware of what your dog's weaknesses are. And Kelly and I have discussed this with him. His biggest weakness this past year was big water, like confidence on big water. And that kind of got him in that series. He still made up ground and had a great score compared to everybody else. But when I sent for the big retired with a big swim, he went about 75 yards and he popped. And I stood up. I was sitting down in the chair, which that's a cast. I mean, and from there, he swam 200 yards up the hill and put his face on the bird.
Up. Oh, my gosh.
Just bam! So that's 22 points, So, and it was just a lack of confidence deal. Like I wasn't mad at him. I mean, he wasn't fully confident himself. So that's something we're going to focus on this year is getting him more confident with big water to where he doesn't get nervous because he clearly knew where the bird was. He swam 200 something yards, went up a hill and just literally stepped on the thing.
Well, can we interject there for a second? What are you doing? I mean, is it as simple as you're throwing more of them, or like are you working your way up to it?
Long water pattern blinds. Just go across the water and get something. Bigger marks, we're not going to allow him to get in any trouble on a big swim at all. If he's fading or something, we'll just help him with gunner help or we may cast. But there's not going to be any pressure whatsoever involved with anything involving big water. I want him feeling like he can conquer the world swimming across a big lake. And that's what you have to be aware of if you're trying to win a crown or do something really big is work on those things that are are your dog's weaknesses. But remember, especially if it's a confidence deal, you're going to have to make them more confident. You're never going to make them more confident with any type of force, in my opinion. They've got to have a lot of success to where they feel like they can do it. The last thing we want to do is put force in it to where it makes them even more nervous about something they're already unconfident in. So that's what we're working on. I mean, he got second in the crown. Super proud of him. The dog that won, man, there wasn't any doubt. He won. I mean, he didn't make a wrong step all week long. And it happens that way sometimes. That's what it takes to
Yeah.
win the crown. You got to have the best week you've ever had to do it, because the dogs there are all there's a reason why they're there. They're that good.
He was a chocolate, right? Clark, Mark.
Riggs,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. I can't
Yep.
talk right now, but was he the first chocolate to win that wasn't to win the Open? Because I know
I
Jeter
think so.
won.
I think so. Yeah.
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 Well,
I
speaking
mean, he
speaking of
clearly
dog
won.
colors, have we converted you to be a kind of a yellow dog guy now a little bit?
We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing out of Fang right now. He's man, to be 14 months old, he's pretty salty. I ran him as test dog this past weekend at Southern Flight. Saturday morning on the land test, like he pinned all three marks and I think one whistled the land blind. Went to the water test, which is in flooded timber, and I had to handle him on one just because the birds were sinking. And then he two whistled the water blind. The next day, I ran him on the water test that was in the timber again. It was hard, like really hard. And he got it good and ran a good blind. And we were all joking. We went to the land test that afternoon, and it was a very difficult land test. It was a little above a 14-month-old pay grade, and I handled on all three marks. And all the guys looked at me and said, "We're screwed now because we've been struggling on these setups. This dog's been killing." And he just handled on all three of them. And he was just doing 14-month-old things, man. And, hey, you want me to go there? I'll go there. And I'm going to run straight as far as you can see rather than checking down to find a bird, nothing to be worried about. But there's times that I watch him, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And then I have to go back and remind myself, hey, when he does something wrong, like, don't get upset, help him, because he is a baby. I mean, he's barely over a year old. But it's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch him progress.
Yeah, that setup that you sent me that you said he smacked everything, as singles, but still, I was like, whoa, that's
Oh man, it's
I think I said, are you
unreal.
getting ready for seasoned or the grand?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes, yes.
He won't see seasoned.
Yeah.
He'll probably run master first.
No,
And
two of his litter mates just got their season titles. So that was pretty cool.
Yep, we've got one here, Indy, and Indy's actually a better marker than Fang overall, um, right now for sure. But when it comes into like control and running blinds, Fang's way further ahead than he is on that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be cool to see how it all plays out. I mean, I sent you a video of Indy running a monstrous mark the other day, tight behind the gun, angled across the road, and he just went out there and put his face on it. It's probably 350 yards.
Yeah, Lewis is gonna have to start running some derbies with that little guy soon.
He's planning on it. We'll run Indy and Fang, and then he's got one named Weller that'll be probably running later this summer, in the fall. Expecting some pretty big things out of them. I mean, they're doing very, very well.
Yeah, that I have to say that is an oddly surprise. Like I've been surprised at how fulfilling that is as a person who, wanted to do that breeding and put it together. To see dogs like having success, and Sam Livingston's dog, Chief, that he
He's doing
has,
really
like,
well too.
yeah, he's doing well. And Doreen's are the ones that I know that have been actually like running stuff, and I know a lot of the other ones have been doing really really well. But yeah, that's been really fun to watch. It's been really really cool to do that, and after training Fang, doing his really young guy work, I kept one out of this last breeding, and mine's very similar to Fang, so I'm hoping that
Yeah.
it's just the female version of her.
It's
or of him.
It's pretty cool to watch that. Like Stroker was a breeding that I put together with Dude and Nab, which Nab was out of my old Max dog that got me into this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then to watch Stroker grow up, he's born on my living room floor, 8 grand passes, multiple top 6 finishes in the crown into win a crown. And it's cool to watch that, like you put that together, you raised them, you know, it's a very fulfilling feeling to know that, hey, what you had in your mind actually came to
Yeah.
fruition. Like it happened and it
Yeah.
worked. And I have big goals with Fang. I mean, from what I'm seeing so far, there's not really anything that he can't do. Anything that he has any trouble with is all just experience related. It has nothing to do with talent or mental ability.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty excited to see
Yeah.
where this road leads with him.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm definitely excited, and it's so interesting training something that you've bred because you're like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
But then to see it now, I've seen it in because Dan's got one
Hmm.
from this last litter that a client of his has, and just talking to Jeremy's got one, and that one's doing really really well. And Jeremy called me because I just wanted to learn. Okay, what do you see? And they all have the same as a characteristic that Winter has that I didn't actually even see Winter have until like she was 2.5, 3 years old. Like through all the basics, I never saw this. But Winter's sister had it. It's this flight, and it comes out in different ways. But all the dogs from this breeding had the same flight response at enforced to pile, like at least 4 or 5 of them. Like I remember the moment Fang did it when I was training Fang. Jeremy said his dog did it. I remember, and then two other people that I talked to. But like that's genetic. Like
Oh yeah.
that's genetic. Like the power of genetics when you see things that are, and it was cool. Like I was honest with people on the second breeding. I was like, there's a little bit of a flight response in
Yeah.
these dogs, and I don't think every dog's going to have something that there is. And I'm not curious. Have you seen that since I kind of dealt with that through Forced to Pile?
I haven't, but I say I haven't anything pressure related at all. Um, when he's overrunning Mark's training, I feel like it is a mental
Yeah.
stress thing.
Yep.
So I feel like that is part of it.
That's
Um,
what his mom does.
yep,
Like
like when
when she
mentally
feels
stressed,
pressure,
just
she's just on
run
her
it.
run.
Yep, straight as you can see, as far as you can see. So yeah, I can see that. But Stroker had the same thing when he was young. It wasn't really a flight thing, but I can remember when we first started running finished and master, like I was going to handle on the Go Bird in the first series every weekend because he was so high he'd overrun it and I have to handle him back to it. And then he'd kill the rest of it. Like that was just his thing. And that went on for like a year. We handled on the Go Bird for like a year every single time I ran him. Now he'd pass everything,
Oh my
but I was
goodness,
going to handle on the Go Bird.
I would be so
Oh,
nervous
dude.
every time.
Yeah, it was nerve wracking as hell. But I mean, just that was him for a while. Uh, and we finally got out of that, thank God. But that was a thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool to
Dan's
see the different
sister,
things.
Dan had the litter mate, not a litter mate, from a previous litter, a dog named Molly. And when they were teaching water blinds, she came out by a water blind and just decided not to stop. And it was get on the four
Oh
wheeler and
no!
get her. She went 700, like 700,
Oh
800 yards and
no!
was just running. And uh, Winter's littermate Bean did it once. And all these dogs have grand passes, or grand titles. It's not
You
like it's
know,
a completely debilitating thing. It's so funny that they all have the same response.
yeah.
It's like just run
Honestly,
straight.
I don't think I could. I don't think Fang would ever like completely bolt because he is so soft. Like
Yeah.
he does not require much pressure. Like on the Sport Dog 2525 I use, the collar itself has a low, a medium, and a high. And then you've got 1 through 9 with the low, medium, and high on the
Hmm.
transmitter. I run him on the lowest setting on the collar itself, and I hardly ever get above like a 3, a low 3.
Hmm.
Just doesn't require it. Like there's no point. I
Yeah.
feel like if he ever decided to bolt, if I put that thing on a 9, he's stopping. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he just can't handle much as far as
Yeah.
that's concerned. And
Yeah.
that's a
That is a.
common thing with stroker puppies. Like they don't require a lot of pressure,
Hmm.
and I feel like all the dude puppies were very similar. And I feel like a lot of the dude puppies got a bad rap with some trainers because they were so dependent upon e-collar pressure rather than teaching a whole lot. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people didn't like dude puppies because they said they were soft and they'd fold. Well, just because they weren't being treated the way that they needed to be treated to learn, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. They're just a little different. I
Yeah.
mean, super intelligent, extremely intelligent, and very compliant. They want to make you happy. But you start putting a lot of pressure to them, they'll quit on you.
Yeah.
That's in their nature. So
Yeah. Genetics, man. Man, that is like one of the things I'm always super interested in. Like
yeah,
that's always super cool.
and that kind of leads into something we discussed earlier about you know how the dogs have changed since the 20 years I've been in this. Man, I remember when I first got into this, the majority of the people I was ever around training used a whole lot of pressure, a lot, and the dogs needed it. Um, as I've gone further in this career and dogs have evolved in the breedings, I'm seeing that they don't require the pressure. They're a lot more intelligent. They're a lot more pliable. Now there are still some that do need it, but it's very few and far between now. Um, and I'm a firm believer in something that Van Egan said um, that I read that he feels like that 95 to 99% of the dogs that are being bred today, the high end dogs, if they don't make it, it's not the breeding, it's the atmosphere and the environment they're brought up in. And that kind of strikes home with me. I believe that there's in the game we play today, um, as long as they have a desire to do it, like if you don't break that desire to do it, I feel like you can make a hunting retriever champion master hunter if you work at it. Um, I feel like a lot of them that don't make it are man made to not make it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it's normally
Whether it
one
be
end of the
from
spectrum or the
yeah,
other. Either
whether
they took all the retrieving desire out of them, or they never taught them the rules of how they can get a retrieve the right way, and they're out of control.
yeah, or they weren't brought up correctly as a puppy. Like they
Yeah.
weren't raised correctly, and that people don't realize how much that means. Um, Man, you can take two puppies from the same litter and bring them up in two different households and two different atmospheres, and you may have one that's a home run hitter and one of them that's just a complete dud. And it's not anything genetic; it's just because of the way they were brought up. If they're kept in a kennel, 99% of the time they're only let out to go to the bathroom, or maybe they've learned to use the bathroom in the kennel. Um, and they've never had anything that teaches them how to engage their mind and their brain, you know, that's not on the dog. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's on the socialization of the people that had them. So I tend to lean toward what he said in that. I mean, from what I'm seeing in today's breedings, um, a lot of it is from the environment the dogs are raised in.
Do you think some of that is because the hunt test game has become so prevalent, and so and just has grown so much that it, you know, the dogs that have the drive, but also have to some degree the compliance that's probably a little bit higher standard, not line manner standards than say the field trial game has, and having so many of those dogs being bred now because of just the ability to get that information out about those good dogs, or do you think it's something else?
I think it's as a whole. I mean, I wouldn't say it's just breeding the very compliant hunt test dogs. I feel like the field trial bred dogs are leaning more that way too now, that don't require as much pressure or are more intelligent. I feel like we've kind of weaned out a lot of those really bad habits that we had to deal with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe breeding some of the dogs, when people put together a breeding for specific traits than rather than pedigree, I feel like that's where you get your best breedings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like take example the stroker breeding. Dude and Nab. We bred Dude and Nab together because Nab was a fire breathing dragon that would run through a brick wall to get a bird, and Dude was a super compliant, incredible marking, incredible blind running dog. To where if we then Nab was an amazing marker. So if we could get kind of that happy medium between the two, then we would have something, and that's what we got with Stroker. And a lot of his other litter mates were really good too. Um, So I feel like when you're breeding for the traits rather than the pedigree, that's when you get your best puppies.
Hmm. So for people like me that sit and look at and try to see how many people we can rack up in the same pedigree and then know nothing about the dog, that's not really the best way to do it.
I don't
Just kidding.
believe so. No, I
I
don't.
don't do it that way, but that's how I used to think. That's how definitely
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
used to think.
yeah. Because you don't know anything about them. I mean, let's just say Cosmo gets a bad rap that he creates these high strong, can't sit down, no control dogs at the line. Well, what did you breed him to? Like that Zeus dog that Lyle and I used to run was out of Cosmo. And dude, he didn't do anything but turn his head at the line. One of the most
Hmm.
compliant dogs I've ever run. He's directly out of Cosmo. It's not necessarily always one parent or the other. It's what did you breed him to? What did you cross him with? If you got a fire breathing dragon like Cosmo and you breed it to a fire dragon female, you shouldn't be shocked when the puppies are fire breathing out of control dragons. You bred to make that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So
Good stuff, man. Well, we kind of jumped into the next topic, but did you have anything about kind of the tombs recovery that we didn't actually cover? Because I took us on a rabbit, down a rabbit trail, and I didn't mean to, but it was a good one. But I just didn't want to, leave out anything that
um,
we should cover about the tomb story.
the biggest thing I feel like to take away from it is never be afraid to do something different. Like
Hmm.
if what you're seeing isn't working, try a different approach. And a lot of the times, what I've found is we're guilty as the trainer of having this high expectation for the dog, and we're quick to jump to giving corrections when they do something wrong because we expect so much more out of them. And sometimes that's not necessarily the best thing to do. Sometimes it's better to use attrition and recalling to keep a better mental state with that dog rather than using the pressure to break them down. Um, and I think that's kind of more where the dog game's leaning toward nowadays is the dogs are so intelligent and the tasks that are put in front of them are more difficult and require a dog that can make decisions on their own because they want to rather than because they have to. That I feel like that's kind of more toward where the dog game's going. So I feel like if you have anything to take away from it is never be afraid to step back, take a different approach. If it's little stupid things they're doing that they shouldn't be doing that's wrong, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're using too much pressure and you're putting too much mental stress on the dog. So back off, make it fun again. Um,
Yeah.
you know, use more attrition, recalling, casting, teaching, go back to that and get away from the pressure. And a lot of the times you'll see those dogs free up and really start to see what they're capable of when you free them up some.
Very good. Um, Did you have anything more? Like we're going to talk about how the game has changed. We went into how the dogs have changed. Is there anything more that you'd like to share about how the game has changed? As long as you've been doing this.
As far as the way the game's changed, man, it's the dogs are so much better first and foremost. Like as far as the SRS game's concerned, like
Yeah.
from when I started till now, man, we could show up on a weekend and I could pretty much tell you who half of the top six was going to be every time we showed up based on who was there.
Yeah.
It's just the way it was because those dogs are so far ahead of everybody else. Nowadays, man, flip a coin. I mean, they're all good. If they're there, most of them are capable of winning if they have the right weekend. So I feel like the dogs have gotten better. The training obviously has gotten better. People understand dog psychology more and how to get more out of them. As far as the hunt test games changed, man, it's like daylight and dark compared to when I started. The weekend HRC tests are pretty similar. Um, in the most part, master tests have gotten harder for sure. But the grand in itself, like that's my favorite thing to run. It's changed completely from when I first started. Like I can remember the first grand I ran, looking back at it, as long as you had a dog that sat there, like could sit well, and look where he was pointed and marked pretty well and run a good blind, they could pass. I mean, there was nothing super over the top the first few grands I ran, other than one series I can remember in South Dakota. Larry McMurray had a water series that was just whoo. It was brutal. To where today the tests are so much harder. Like the bird placement's better. Um, they're bigger tests. Now they're more lenient at the line than what they were when I first started, and going to the line, which to me, I'm good with. I feel like we should be leaning more towards seeing what the dogs are capable of doing. Like who can throw the birds in hard places to get to and are hard to find and run really difficult blinds. See who can go get the birds. Like that's to me, line manners are important. Control is important. Um, but I'll take a dog that marks lights out and can run really good blinds. It moves a little bit way before I'll take a dog that just sits like a rock and can't go get the birds.
Yeah.
And I feel like the grand has changed a lot more towards that. Like you've got to have a dog that can really mark and be under extreme control to run the blinds that they're looking for you to run in the manner they're in. Um, they'll let you get away with a little more at the line. You know, before, if you crept a little bit, you were on ones. Now, as long as you're not like super out there, you're within the gun barrel, they're not going to say anything to you. But on the vice versa side of that, they may not say anything to you, but Fido may not have seen two of the three birds because he's moving, you know. So it's a catch-22 there. They'll let you hang yourself now.
Yeah.
They let dogs hunt way more than what they used to. Again, the tests are harder. And I feel like we're getting the same results. The pass rates are pretty similar to what they were back then, when they really didn't let us hunt. Like if you went out there and made two or three loops and you didn't find that bird, bud, they were pretty quick to tell you, go ahead and put them on the bird. To where now they'll let you hunt and let the dog figure it out. And I think what you're seeing is by having more difficult tests and letting the dogs eliminate themselves by the decisions they make, whether they bail out on a hunt or they don't go directly there, fall and hunt somewhere they shouldn't be, and they have to handle the pass rate inevitably ends up being very similar to what it was before.
Yeah.
Would you not agree?
Oh yeah.
Uh, so I feel like the judging has changed, in a positive way. And I feel like the tests have gotten harder. And to me, the way this game is going, that tells me we're doing the right things. Because if it stayed at the exact same standard, then two things are happening. We're not breeding better dogs, and we're not getting better at training them.
Yeah.
So to me, the standard should always be moving up some. And I feel like it's kind of gone that way across the board. Like I said, finish tests are pretty similar than what they were. You can only do so much within the regulations of a finish test. And I feel like that's where a lot of people struggle when they go to the grand. Like if that's all they've ever seen as a finish test, it's a pretty eye-opening experience when you walk up to that first like real grand series and you're like, oh my gosh. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, really intimidating because you're so used to a typical standard finish test, and Fido's been killing that. And then you walk up to something that to you looks like an all-age steak. You know what I mean?
I've seen some real all age steaks now, and I'm like, wow, yeah, that's how I thought. But then I saw a real all age steak, and I was like,
Yeah,
holy,
yeah,
how do dogs even possibly do this?
yeah. It's wild what they can do.
It's unbelievable,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
but to keep, I harp on this all the time. Those dogs that are going and doing those amazing feats in the all age, I promise you, they're not making them do it by using a ton of pressure. They can't do those things if they're nervous.
No.
It's impossible for them to complete those tasks if they're nervous and worried about getting in trouble. They just can't. I mean, that's
Yeah.
just the nature of the beast. I mean, if you watch the SRS they're running this weekend, Clint Avant's judging, and they threw a true all age land series at them this morning. A quad with three retired. And go look at the scores. I mean, it ate them alive. Now, an all age stake with quad with three retired with feathers out there, it's a little easier to find the birds once you get to the area of the fall
Yeah.
than a piece of plastic. But you get what I'm saying. Like, it's The all age stakes are no joke. It's a whole different world in its own.
Yep. Well, hey, as we kind of conclude this, I don't know if you've seen this going around, but Rig'em Right has, in the spirit of March Madness, it has a bracket of different waterfowl species, and so I sent it to my group, and they're it's the first round, so it's like mallard versus ruddy duck. What would you take?
I'm taking a mallard.
Oh, well, I figured, that's the easy one because mallard is a 1 seed. Okay, but
Yeah, for sure.
But it gets interesting, So okay, sandhill crane, common eider.
Ooh, I like the taste of sandhill cranes. I'm
All
gonna take
right,
the
sandhill crane, snow goose, cinnamon teal.
Oh, cinnamon teal all day long.
See, there's my friends. 2 of them went for snow goose. Interesting, which I thought was crazy. Personally, I was all about the cinnamon teal. But anyway, green wing teal, surf scoter.
I've never shot a surf scoter, so I got to go with that.
Okay. All right, wood duck or a coot?
Oh, wood duck. Well, I don't know. Have you ever tried to clean a wood duck?
Dude, we shoot a ton of wood ducks up here.
Dude, I think their skin's attached with super glue when you're trying to breast them.
No,
do you not agree with that?
I think woodies taste good,
a wood
man.
duck.
Oh man, no, woodies are fine. There's nothing wrong with a good old woody.
They taste good, but I'm just saying when you go to breast a wood duck, like their skin is like super glued to their breast. It is so hard to get them
maybe
off
when
of
they
them.
get down to you, that's what happens. But up here, man, they're pretty
Maybe
normal.
so. Maybe so, but I can tell you, I used to hate seeing a wood duck come through there as having to clean. It's like, God dang, it takes me 3 times as long just to get the skin off this joker.
That's funny, man. Oh man. No, we wood ducks are like a staple for about 3 weeks up here, and then they're gone. Yeah. I'll never forget the first duck hunt I ever went on. My grandfather took me, and I had no idea what it was going to be like, and we had 300 to 400 woodies come out of the cattails at 50 yards up in front of us 10 minutes before shooting light. Just wave after. It was like unlimited wood ducks, and we sat there, and I shot my first duck was a wood duck, and I only shot with the one that came back. There's 400 ducks, man. They just kept going and leaving and leaving. And my grandfather's like, we got to sit here because they're going to come back. And they never did. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, they came back after dark.
It's not like we kicked them out. Like we had been sitting there for, 20, 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden they just started leaving. But obviously that was super memorable. And my grandfather, I didn't even own a pair of waders. And this is how I got into dog training. My grandfather's out there he had to be 80, probably 88 at that time, was walking in a cow pond and cow muck out to pick up this wood duck hen that I shot with, water up to his chest. I'm like, if he falls over, he's dead. I gotta get a duck. All right, I gotta get a dog. And then I had to beg my wife for 7 months to let me buy my first dog. But okay, keeping on. Barrel's Goldeneye or a Ross Goose?
A Goldeneye.
All right. Redhead or a cackling goose?
Redhead.
Okay. I actually put a cackling goose only because they're like prizes when we shoot them here because they're so small. And I'm not sure, they're really good to teach a dog how to pick up a
Go to Lubbock, Texas. They're freaking everywhere.
Well, we don't got them freaking everywhere up here, so it's I shot a baby. It's like so cool when you've been shooting these giants, and then you can totally tell when they're coming in. They're like, oh, those are cacklers, and then you unload on them, and they
never shut up.
Oh man, I'll never forget. We were sitting this year, and it was in the snow. And man, snow hunts and layouts in a cornfield to me is like the top 3 ways to kill geese. Because man, they just give it up and they look like bombers coming in. They're scraping their toes. I love it. But the thing is that you can't really see all that well when you're in the snow cover because you really got to be low inside the snow cover. So your perspective of the size of the geese are always off. Well, this year I came up on a single and it was a cackler, but I didn't realize what it was. And I was shooting double BBs by this point because it's the last
Destroyed
day.
that
I came up and I shot, and that bird moved like 10 yards in the air backwards. And I was like, whoa, I really connected with that sucker. And then Winter brought the bird back and I was like, oh, it was a cackler. But I mean, it was like, he got hosed. There wasn't much left of that guy. But anyway, it's a special treat to shoot a cackler up here north. So I actually put that over the couple redheads I've shot in my life. All right. Widgeon or hooded merganser? Fully plumed hooded merganser.
Man, I love shooting a fully plumed widgeon, man.
Okay, I can't disagree with that one. Okay, so we're on the other side of the bracket. Number 1 seed is a pintail, and number 8 bufflehead.
Ooh, man, a bufflehead's beautiful.
Dude, there was one in the training pond that I was training at tonight, and I was like, "That is a good."
Being that I've shot a lot of pintails in my life, I'll take a bufflehead. I mean, I've shot some heads, but I'll take a bufflehead.
Okay. Common goldeneye or lesser scop?
Common goldeneye.
I would say the same. Like I have shot a common goldeneye, but I've never retrieved the common goldeneye. This one time I was hunting on my parents' river or on the Fox at my parents' house, and there was these birds I didn't know what they were, but they just were whistling and going by like super fast. And my parents, the river kind of does a hook, and so it's like this. It's not really a peninsula, but it kind of juts out. And I was walking because I was done, and I was walking back to the ATV, and I saw this bird coming from like 600 yards away, and it just was coming. It was coming. And this was when I didn't know what I was doing with my good old 870, but I had an 870 with some BBs in it. And I shot this goldeneye at like 85 yards. The problem was it was flying down the river. And I didn't have a boat or nothing. And there's ice on the river. And I shoot this bird and I fold it. But it landed 150 yards down the river, rushing down the river. And I had a dog that couldn't run a blind. And I tried, but it was not safe. And that bird got away. But that's the only time. But I have wanted, because as soon as after that was my first year of hunting. And after that, I would go out to my parents' house and there'd be this little tiny ice hole in the river. And there'd be like 20 golden eyes, and I get binoculars and look at them. I'm like, those are really cool birds. So
yeah, they're beautiful.
I would take the golden eye for sure. But anyway, okay, Brant or blue-winged teal?
Ooh, never shot a Brant, so I'd say that. Shot a lot of blue.
That's a good one. All right, my dream goose was speckle belly or ring neck.
Oh, speckle belly all day long.
Oh yeah. We see them, and I have attempted to shoot them slightly farther than I probably should, but I haven't killed one. But I've been in many hunts that we've killed them. I need to go south. So for those that don't know, I have never hunted further south than Illinois ever in my life. And I think I've only hunted 2 states for waterfowl, Michigan and Illinois.
Child, such a sheltered child.
Dude, I have so many birds I can kill in Illinois, though. Like,
you don't have speckle bellies.
We do have speckle bellies. We just don't have enough of them.
We got plenty of them down where
in Morris, where I've been training, there's at least 300 of them roosting on the pond, but we don't hunt it. They're roosting on the tech pond, bro. They're roosting on the tech pond. Okay,
sounds like a really good time,
dude. There are. When I went down there right after season to start training, it was so depressing. There was over 700 geese roosting on all the tech ponds. I was like, what have I been doing? But we're not going to hunt it because we don't want to lose permission for our tech ponds.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. But man, it's really tempting, I have to say. All right, Canada Goose, which is the number 1 seed, as it rightfully should be for everybody that's listening. For all you Canada geese haters out there, you're just wrong. Anyway, and molted duck. Canada Goose, molted duck.
Canada Goose. I've shot.
Okay, good. Woo! I was gonna say, well, a molted duck is pretty cool. That's a rough 8 seed. Yeah. That's a rough 8 seed. He should be
That's a
seated
very
higher.
unique 8 seed.
Yeah, he should be seated higher. Okay, good. Black duck or tundra swan?
Ooh. I've shot black ducks before. I've never shot a tundra swan, so I'd say that I've had the opportunity to shoot one, just not in a state where it was legal to shoot one. So I did not shoot it.
this one time, my cousin and I we're hunting a refuge in Illinois, and they had like it was a whole draw. You had to show up in the clubhouse, and you had to draw and all that stuff in the state property. Well, they had signs everywhere trying to help you to understand the difference between a snow goose and a swan, right? One's massive.
One's
Okay.
got about like an 8 to 10 foot wingspan,
Yeah.
and one's got like a 3.5 to 4 foot. It's
And
not hard to tell.
So we've been hunting 3 days in the freezing, like all walk-ins. We don't know what we're doing. This is our first year hunting. We have no idea what we're doing, and we're standing in like this like timber against a massive reservoir, and we haven't seen or shot anything in 3 days, and it's like -11 or something out there, and we're standing in water. It's so stupid, like we should be dead. Anyway, this trumpeter swan or muted swan, some big swan, I don't remember what it was, comes flying close, and Jordan's like, "Don't shoot it. It's a swan. Don't shoot it. Don't shoot it. Don't shoot it." He just kept saying it. And I said, "Hey, Jordan, I'm going to shoot it."
So you laugh about that? So when I was in high school, a buddy of mine actually shot one. We're past the statute of limitations at this time. We're way past it, so I can talk about it. And he took it up to the local sporting goods store, and he's like, "Y'all got to see this. I shot the biggest snow goose you'll ever see in your life."
He actually
He
thought it
took
was a
it-
snow goose, or he was
Yeah,
joking?
yeah. No, he really did. The foot on that thing was the size of my hand, dude. And he took it up there holding it by the neck. And the guy that owned the store saw it. He said, "You get out here with that thing right now." He said it made the biggest splash he's ever seen when it hit the water.
My buddy Mark he shot a swan this year up in the Dakotas. He got a sick photo of it. It's a really nice photo of it. I don't remember what.
He retrieved one this year. He went to North Carolina and shot him.
He shot them. Do they taste good? I don't know anything about how they taste.
I did. I've never shot one. Like I said, I've had the opportunity to shoot one in a state where it wasn't legal, so I did not shoot it as it hovered across the decoys in Arkansas.
Yeah.
And I had clients in there, and I was like, "Your buddy, don't shoot." Don't shoot.
When I was driving to pick up this new trailer, I found a swan feed of like 200 swans in a field. I don't even know what the field was, but I'd never seen that before. It looked
like white ostriches out there.
I was like, dude, those are some big freaking snow geese. And then I made a video. I'll have to post it online. It's a pretty good one.
Funny. What's our next one?
We got 2 more. You're like, it's time for bed, sir. You need to get your thing wrapped up.
I'm sipping on my E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof first time I tried it. It's really good.
I like your floofy glass too.
Yeah, that's all they had in this house were written. I didn't have a bourbon glass, but I got some pink flakes. So
you guys aren't staying at the big house property?
No, we rented a place that one of the people we train on the property has over here. So
cool. That's nice. All right, Gadwall Spoonie, Mr. Hollywood.
Oh man, Spoonie's got green heads too, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful when they're plumed out. I'll take a fully plumed Spoonie any day over the Gadwall.
I've only shot a couple. I've shot 2 Spoonies in my life, and both were in bean fields.
Boy, I'll take you to Arkansas, and you can shoot all you can handle.
All right, we're gonna organize this trip. I need to get out and do
have
something
a boot
different.
rip beat down.
All right, canvasback, black scoter.
Oh, I've never shot a black scoter, so I'd have to go with that. I've shot plenty of canvasback.
I've never shot a canvasback. I'd do a canvasback. I've shot a redhead, never shot a canvasback. Cool. Well, that's it, man. Well, I think that was fun. That was cool.
It was a blast.
Do a little something different.
Man.
Yeah. Well, for everybody that's listening, we got next. So this episode was with Clark. Thank you for being on, Clark. It was awesome. Next episode will be with the amateur crown champ, John Robertson, who I actually recorded like 2 weeks after he won the crown. And it was going to be the last episode of season 1, but I did something that I haven't done in a very long time, which was not back up the finished interview, and the hard drive died. But
Oh no.
I had the interview backed up, but I had done all the editing, and I was emotionally deflated. And at the same time that I was supposed to release the episode, I flew to California to film for work, and the episode wasn't going to release because the hard drive had crashed. So I said, that's going on season 2. So that's how we ended up taking a break. And so I do appreciate everybody, listening at all the episodes. It's amazing how many downloads a week come from from season 1. I am shocked and honored, and I hope it's helping everybody. But we will be back up and running with weekly episodes here with John Robertson next. I'm going to have a discussion with my training group at a judges seminar that we did hosted by Kankakee River, which was super insightful. I took a bunch of notes, and we're going to have a roundtable discussion about things that we learned from the judges seminar. Fun fact, I am now a judge apprentice, and I'm going to be judging started here in April. So watch out. I'm going to make sure that
get started, dogs.
No, dude, I'm going to be that guy that's like, is there any possibility to cheat? Because if there is, we're moving this. Like, I'm going to be that guy that's like, don't let the dogs cheat. I don't care about efficiency. No bad habits.
Yeah. Do we got waiters we can put that bird boy in?
Yeah, get that guy out there. We receive your dog in the middle of the pond, please.
Speaking of who the next episode's about, the people who didn't know him or that dog were probably like, who is this and where did it come from? But the people who had run with him before knew exactly what was going to happen when he showed up at the ground.
Yeah.
To the point where some of the amateurs were like, you really don't need to leave that newborn baby and wife to come run the ground. Trying to talk him out of it. And I was like, dude, you better go run the ground. So that was not a surprise to anybody that knew him and that dog. To the people that didn't, they were probably like, where did this guy come from and who is that dog?
Yeah.
But that was no surprise. He does a really good job with that dog. They have a very unique bond, and it's fun to watch them run.
Yeah, absolutely. I screwed up and didn't hit submit on my pick'ems or whatever for the crown, but I did text my buddy Josh Munson, and I told him I have Kate in the top 5. So I kind of called it. I did not pick her to win. I told him that, but I did have her in the top 5. So I don't think I had anybody else in the top 5. I did have Toombs. I had Toombs. No. I had Toombs. I was talking about the amateur. I had Toombs. I did have Daisy, and that didn't turn out very good for me, but that's all right. She had some health stuff.
She had some other things going on. So
which would have been some good insider information to have, prior to that. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a touch and go thing, and I'm very happy that she has recovered for the most part, and hopefully she'll be back in training in May. Get her back qualified for the crown. That was a pretty gut-wrenching thing. For those that don't know, she got very bad sick. She was very bad sick at the crown. It's pretty amazing what she did at the crown, knowing that, literally within 3 weeks later, she would be on death's door. But she made it. She survived. Freak thing, just to let people know what she had they call it swamp cancer. It's pitheosis or pithis. It's a very rare thing. It's a fungal infection similar to blasto, but it infects the GI tract. University of Wisconsin, where she was treated, it's the only case they have ever seen. So it's a very rare thing. And, we always joke about like the really good ones when the really good ones are the dogs that have the crazy things happen to them. And that's definitely the case with Daisy. And I'm very thankful that she pulled through it. And I know Chris is too. There was a lot of very heartfelt, emotional moments through those months. For Chris and I both. I know for Chris because he literally had to feed her through a feeding tube for a couple months just to get her through. And we had the discussion many times about her, and it was like, you could have 100 dogs and never have one like that again. So you just got to keep praying and having faith. And she pulled through, and mean, she's been down here twice training with us, and what's funny is she hasn't done anything since the crown. She was just trying to fight for her life and recover. And the last time he was down here, we threw a big all age setup. And out of the 20 dogs we ran it on, the only dog that did it was Daisy. I mean, she just went out there and put her face on them. And I was just like,
Nice.
thank God. Like, you
Yeah.
just never know how they're going to come back around from that. And to see that is it's a blessing. And I'm so happy that she made it through. Selfishly for myself, because that's the best dog I've ever stood beside. And people think I'm crazy when I say that, but she really is. And happy for Chris too. And she's a special little animal, and I look forward to seeing what she accomplishes the rest of her career.
Yeah, I'm in the hunt club. Chris and I are in the same club together, and he's got a group that he hunts with, and I got a group. So we've never actually hunted together, but the way our website works is we can see who's hunting and with what dog. And I remember looking on the website and seeing Chris with a dog, and I knew Daisy was starting to do a little bit better based on things that you had said, and Chris had
She
kind of
got to hunt a time or two this year, but he
yeah.
made sure it was like very easy,
Oh yeah, but
not
my
going to
point
be
was,
overworked.
it
Yeah,
was one of the best things that I had seen in a long time on the website. When I saw that, and I texted Chris and said, "You got Daisy out?" And he said, "Yeah," and she did great. And
yeah,
that was
man,
that was cool. Like I was so excited to see that because I hadn't heard anything for a little bit
yeah.
on
It
how
was
things were
touch and
going.
go, but I mean, it gets me a little emotional thinking about it. I mean, it was very touch and go, and that's a very special dog. And Chris and his wife are amazing people. And I'm very happy she pulled it through. There's
Yeah,
lots of prayers for that little dog. I mean, there was a lot of people praying for her. And I'm excited to get her back. We're going to be very easy getting into it when she gets back. Um, I mean, for those that don't know, she went from, average of 58 pounds. She got down to like low 40s. Um, it was really touch and go. Had to be fed through a feeding tube for months.
mm.
Um, and thank God, figured it out, got her on the right treatment plan. It looks like she's going to come through it. But it's going to be, ease her into it. And I have no doubt she'll qualify for the crown again. Whether or not she runs a spring grand, I don't know. Chris and I have talked about that. I said, we'll get her back, see how she's doing. She's got 4 grand passes. What's a 5th really going to do? In the long term thing, if she's not physically ready, and I'm not worried about her doing the work. The question is she physically capable and ready to go through that strenuous trip, routine, all of it, because it's a lot on dogs.
Yeah,
People don't realize how much it is on them, emotionally and physically. So we're going to play it by ear when I get her back and see how it goes. But I'm anxious to get her back. I don't have her or Toombs here right now. So you run all this stuff and you're working toward getting dogs getting better and better. And I'm waiting to get my 2 back that I can always run and say, okay, well, it can be done. You know what I mean? Yeah,
yeah,
it is doable. So
yeah.
I'm not being unrealistic.
The worst
uh,
is when you run them and they can't do it. You're like, ah, shoot.
yeah, yeah,
What did I
yeah.
do
But
here today?
sometimes it flips. Like you run something and they just don't do it, and you're like, crap, this is not going to be a good day. And then all of a sudden, all the younger dogs are doing it, and you're like, well, what the hell? Well, maybe they
Yeah.
just overthought it.
There. Oh, everybody's
Human.
overthinking today.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep. Cool. Well, so we got the judges seminar. We're gonna do that, and then we got Tyler and I have been dreaming up on some good stuff, so that'll be fun stuff to talk about.
awesome.
And I got a few other guests I'm trying to get on that are ghosting me, man. Some field trial folks. So I might have to start reaching out to some other folks to get those connections. But we'll have so much fun this season, everybody. I'm so excited to be back. I've been obviously, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I've been sick and not very inspired. But running water today and then doing the podcast has made me I feel like a new
Got you
man.
hungry again.
But
Yeah.
it also could just be the bourbon. I don't know. We'll see.
Speaking of that, you need to come to the house. I got a bunch more stuff to try. You got to try this E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. I've been trying to get one for like 2 years, and I finally got one last week. And I opened it
Yeah.
up just for this podcast. It is as good as advertised.
Nice. All right. Well, that's the end of the first episode of Hunt Test Hobo Season 2. Sweet, dude. Thanks. That was fun.